If you with it, drop it.
Hi guys, and welcome to this week's episode of the Mantate Show. This is a weekly podcast where I get to talk about all things life, what I think about life, what I love to do in this life, and also some of the things that I'm learning from the experiences with other people in this journey of life. I also like to talk about hair, style, travel, and all of those other things. So this week is very important, and that's why I'm wearing red today, because it's February, the month of love. And I know that on my podcast, I haven't spoken enough about love. So today is that day where we talk about love. And I decided to talk about this today because, first of all, the vibe is February, right? So it's just the right month for it. But also because I feel like it's such an important way of starting the year as well. I know last week in my episode, I was just telling you guys kind of like the mindset that I have as I go through this year. But today I wanted to just bring it down to this one important thing that I think is kind of important for us to talk about, but also exciting to think about on your own. It's not always something that you need to talk about. Sometimes it's just like, something you take time out to just sit and be like, what does love mean for me? What does love look like for me in, in the now or in the next couple of years, but in the future as well. So also, it's also a moment to think about what does love look like for you, and what are the things that you're learning and bringing forward into your now, or what are some of the things that you're definitely not bringing. Because I think the beauty of love and relationships is the fact that there's so much that you can learn, good things and bad things, where you're like, okay, I'm taking this forward, but this I'm never gonna do again. So I think that's kind of like the space that I think about when I think of love. So I wanted to use today and my platform to talk about it. And I want to say from the onset that a greater part of what I'm saying today is very subjective, and this is coming from me and what I think about life and how it sits within my journey. It could be different for you, and I'm always very interested to know what you guys are thinking. So if you're wanting to tell me what you think about something that I mentioned, or just let us know something else that I didn't mention in the conversation, you can always just share a comment, or you can send me a DM. I'm always happy to share it somewhere on my stories or status if you'd like people to know, even if you want to do it anonymously, right? So where do you even start with this conversation, right? First of all, outfit check, because in this month we are pulling through, okay? Yeah, that's the vibe. But I wanted to just start from this one thing I was thinking about, before starting to record this podcast. I was actually thinking that one of the most important things in my journey, or in my perspective of love, has been the question that I asked myself to say, who am I becoming in this partnership? Who am I becoming in this relationship? Who was I when I started this relationship? Who have I become, since starting that relationship? I always think this question is very important for me, because it helps me to see if this is the right relationship for me, both before I get into the partnership, but also in the journey that I've been on in the partnership, right? So when I say, who am I in this partnership, one of the first things I'm thinking about is this the kind of space that allows me to grow? Do I look at the version of me that I am right now and think, oh my God, this is the person I've been trying to be, or this is definitely the person that I'm trying to build myself into? So I think that's kind of like the first thing I think about with relationships. It's got to be a place where I see the version of me that's really great to see, a version of me that's empowered, a version of me that's excited about growth, a version of me that feels taken care of, a version of me that feels like safe in a space, like safe in somebody. And I think this is very important, because like, if you don't like the version of you in a relationship, and a greater part of who you've become is that relationship, then you need to ask yourself if you should be in that relationship to start with. And part of this is a conversation about the person that you're with, because they do have an influence on who you've become. But also it could be a question of you to say, who have you allowed yourself to become? Because some of the things that we become, it's not like somebody's forcing you to become those things. Sometimes it's just you consistently, molding yourself into that version of you, because it's compatible with the nature of the relationship that you're in. And this is not always the, like a crazy relationship, but sometimes it could be like a good relationship, right? And you feel like it's only good because there's a version of you that is accepted in that partnership, that is acceptable in that relationship. So when you start molding yourself a certain way, it's like you want to stay that person that you feel is going to sustain the relationship, or you want to stay, the person that person might like, right? And I feel like that's already problematic, right? If you're going to have to constantly make yourself a version, that's like, it's almost performative. You've got to get into character and be that person and stay in that character to be in that relationship. I'm like, how long are you gonna do that? So I think the question of who am I becoming is also a question of who am I forcing myself to be in order to fit this relationship. Another one could really just be like the other person is forcing you to be that person. It could actually just not be you trying to be a version. It could be the other person. You know, like there's some partnerships where someone constantly makes comments about, you know, what they prefer, what they like, which is like the total opposite of you. And you're thinking like, first of all, I'm not that, I can't be that, I'm not going to be that. So technically, as you continue to tell me the vision of a person that you would want to be the ideal for you, that I'm not, it's like, do I need to be that ideal? Do I need to force myself into that ideal? And I feel like that's always such a dangerous place. I think when people get into partnerships, to start with, get into a partnership with someone that can be your type. And also, so I think it's just thinking about getting into partnership with people that are compatible with what you're looking for. There are people that get into partnership for the wrong reasons. Don't get into a relationship with someone when you feel that they're not your type. I think that's a little bit unfair, especially if you're going to consistently bring to them these ideas about what your type is. And I always think it's very interesting because in conversations with your partner, sometimes you actually realize like, you're not my type, and that's okay. You know, if someone is not your type, you know, I feel like you need to speak to them about it. Like, let someone know like, this is not the kind of prayer that I'm praying for a partner for life. And I feel like it's important for you guys to move away from that partnership, because I feel like if you're already convinced that this is not your space, staying in it is a bit unfair, because one, you're gonna be the person that's, you know, not growing the other person, but also you're not the space for that person to really become the best of themselves. I feel like it's just an unfair space. Love is supposed to be this beautiful thing. I really love love. I think love is such a beautiful thing, and I think love is more beautiful when people are very honest, when people bring the best of themselves, because I think the fact that it's a space where you don't need to come, you know, in the perfection, you know, of senses, but you come in the best of yourself, and that best of you becomes the person that someone else experiences, and you're experiencing also the best of themselves, and you guys building this something that's really just beautiful. I think that's the beauty of love. It's just this idea of constant refinement, this constant experiencing of each other that doesn't require any sort of perfection. So if you're gonna come in and you already have ideas of this perfection that you prefer, that is not the space. And I just think like, just leave that person. It's just unfair to just waste somebody's time. And I think half the time we always know, like, if I'm in a relationship and this is like not my prayer, like, I mean, I already know, and I shouldn't be in that partnership, because I'm taking away from that person the opportunity to grow with someone that can be in their life for, you know, a lifetime. So that's kind of like the big question for me. Who am I becoming? Why am I becoming that? How is the other person forcing me to be that? And if it's them forcing me to be the person that I'm not, like, nah, like, just go create your own person. I feel like, don't be trying to make somebody something they're not. There are certain things that you can inspire someone to be. For instance, there's someone that can date you and then they realize, like, you know, you don't have ambition, or maybe you lost your self-confidence, or whatever it is that maybe you're not there, and they can see what you can be. I think if it's coming from that place, you know, that sees your growth, that sees your potential, and they're helping you see that in the best of ways, and you also can see that, I feel like that's powerful, because it's like, you're helping me reach the best of myself, and that is the point of me in the relationship. If I can be the best of me, I can be, you know, the best to you as well. So I feel like if someone is coming from a place of, yo, I see this is who you are, this is where you've always been, and maybe you lost your spark somewhere, I want to help you find that spark. That's great. That's the point of someone being in your life. But if it's somebody that's constantly pushing you down or making you feel like you're less than whatever it is they're looking for, I just feel like, yeah, that's not the best place to be, because you end up being a person that you don't like. You know, it's the person that potentially doesn't speak about their discomforts. It's a person that doesn't voice their frustrations. It's like you're constantly trying to be whatever that sustains a relationship. And a lot of people stay in these partnerships where it's clearly just not the one, you know, it's not the prayer, it's not the place for you, but you stay in it because of so many different reasons. I think at some point I have as well, like, I've stayed in partnerships where I'm like, this is not good for me, but you stay because you're comfortable. And comfort is a very dangerous thing. Comfort is the kind of thing that makes you feel like, this is safer because this is familiar, this is like my person. And I always say that somebody can be your type to the dots, okay, and still not be your type. And I know that doesn't make sense when you say it like that, but I think the point I'm trying to make is, when you list the things you're looking for in somebody, they might tick all the boxes, but then as you relate with them, you actually realize, like, this is not the person. They're ticking all these boxes, but they're not appealing to me emotionally, or they're not, they're not reaching to my spirit and making me feel like this is the place I want to call home for life. So I think for me, it's recognizing that ticking all the boxes is not enough, because those boxes also, there's all these conversations about what do they mean, where do they come from, right? So those prescriptions that we put out there, I'm like, okay, they tick all this, and it's not only the basic boxes, the ambition, the people that are really driven, the people that have a grounding, on things that are important to you, things like fairness and justice in the world, things like love, generosity, like things like that. Somebody that's like looking really nice and gorgeous, there are all those things that you tick off, but I'm like, is that enough if that person mistreats you, if that person doesn't bring you joy on a daily, if your heart is not at home around that person? It doesn't really matter that they tick all those boxes. There are so many human beings in the world that tick all those boxes, but I think the person that chooses every day to honor your heart is the person that you stick around for and do the work that needs to be done to keep that going. So as you can already see, right, I started off from that space of what is the question that I'm asking myself when I'm in partnership, and if the answer is this is not the person we're trying to be, we step out of the partnership, or we have conversations. Sometimes I feel like it's not always stepping out as like the first option. I think sometimes it's having conversations, because sometimes we both don't see how we're not good for each other or how we're harming each other, right? So I think when you have conversations and you're honest about it, like, yo, this is how I feel about myself in this kind of space. How are you feeling about this space? I feel like this is not what I prayed for. Can we work around this? Do you think you can work around those things? What are the things that you're feeling uncomfortable when it comes to me in this space as well? Because I always think that, as you're sitting on your own side, you think about yourself. You're like, yeah, I'm like the best thing that happened to this person. You could be the best thing that happened to that person, but they could also be experiencing certain things that make them feel like you're not really reaching to that person in me that wants you to be my person for life. So you need to always have conversations. And I know conversations don't always work. There are some people that are really not good at having conversation, and I feel like that's just like a very tricky thing, because I'm realizing I've started from a side that's talking about when it doesn't work, but I'll get to the part where it's like really nice and good, because I feel like, it clears. Because if I start with the good part and end with the side where I'm like, if this doesn't work, this is what you should do, I feel like it just, kills the vibe. But because it's a month of love, we can start from like, yeah, this is what is crazy in a partnership, but this is what can be good. And also realize that I might be speaking too fast, which is like my favorite thing to do. So I'm just going to try and slow it down for you guys so that you can, stay with me. But as I was saying, I would say part of it is communication, right? There are certain people that are not communicators, in the sense of, you could be the person that says when they're frustrated, the person that says what they're looking for, what they're excited about, what they want to see in their partner, etc. The other person can be the opposite, like they don't talk about what they're looking for, they don't talk about their frustrations, they're just like the person that's quiet. And so the kind of trickiness there is the fact that the person that's constantly expressing themselves could look like the problem, because it's like, why are you always so frustrated? Why are you always so, why are you always so annoyed by things? But it's only because that person, voices out their frustration. If the other person doesn't do that, it can look like they're not constantly frustrated. But I think what's very important for people like that, because it does look like you're two different types of people when it comes to communicating, I don't think that the person that's expressive should, feel like they don't have to express themselves. As long as you guys establish like, yo, if I'm not comfortable with something, I'm gonna be saying whatever it is. If you do something and it's not cool for me, I'm gonna call it out, whether it's on the spot or, soon afterwards, whatever. The point is, I'm gonna call that out. But if the other person doesn't speak, you need to figure out ways in which they can communicate, because it's like, you want to know as well, like, what's frustrating you, why are you not in a good space today, are you good? It's almost like a check-in, but you don't want to make it like roboty, in the sense of like, you don't want to wake up and be like, yo, today, how are you feeling? Are you feeling angry today? But it's just like, find a mechanism that works in order to communicate with the other person, because I don't think it's cool for people to just not be voicing out things, because it builds a lot of tension, and when you build the tension, it just becomes, this pile of things that have been going wrong and no one was saying it, so you've not been able to fix the small things. Now it's like this big thing that you're not able to fix. So always try to deal with things when they're still very small. So communication for me is like a really big part. I'm one of those people in life that's very open about, my thoughts, what I'm looking for, what I'm excited about, what makes me happy, the things that are like inspiring me every day. I like to talk about those things, but then I also recognize that there are people that don't, but also there are people that do. Like, you meet different people in life, and I think one of the questions I guess that you'd ask yourself is, are you willing to be with the person that doesn't voice out when they're not happy, when they're frustrated, what they're looking for? Or are you more comfortable with someone that's, that's going to do things the same way that you're doing them, in the sense of speak to you, let you know, so that you work things out? I think that's kind of like the most important thing. Figure out what works for you and just go with it. If you decide to go with the other person that doesn't voice out, you need to find mechanisms that work, that doesn't, stretch them too far out of their comfort zones until they're ready to do so. But also ensure that you also are ahead, and you can know what you're giving to that relationship and what you're getting from it. So I think, communication is really just a conversation of, what am I good at? How do I do things? How do you do things? How do we do things? Because you're two people coming into a space. It's an unfamiliar space, so we're gonna have to figure out ways in which we exist together in this world, because individually we can exist in whatever individual sense that we've been, but when we come together, it's like, we want to make this work, so we've got to communicate in a specific way, right? And you can also just trial and error it. I feel like everything, like I said when I started, that everything is just improvement, everything is just getting better. So like just being able to sample ways of talking, of communicating, of making the other person aware of what you're praying for, what you're looking for, and ways that they can bring that back to you, as whether the kind of thing that you're looking for is also like, I can't do this. And then you guys can decide, are we working away? Are we, whatever it is that people do, and they decide after that. So that's very, very important for me. And then the other question I ask myself that is very, very important for me, I know I said earlier that there's a question of, who am I in this partnership? I think for me, my favorite thing, like some of the things that I've really, really enjoyed in a partnership is, I use partnership a lot. I think of relationships in that sense. I think of relationship as partnerships, I guess, because for me, it's thinking about the other person as someone that's kind of co-creating a life with me that I'm excited to be a part of. I think for me, that's relationshiping. If I'm excited about the life that we're building together, then I want to be building with you. If I'm excited about the life that you're bringing into my life, I want to do that with you, right? So if I'm not excited about that co-creation process, I'm like, I don't want to do it. But it's not just the excitement about the world that you all are trying to build. It's also excitement about the work you're putting in to build that world. Because, like when someone says, this is the world we're building, this is what I'm trying to bring into your life, it's one word to say it, but to see them every day build into that life, like collaborate with you to build that life, like that's like for me the coolest thing in a partnership. I'm always excited to see that. And I think it helps to also remember that you also have a role. When you think of yourself as a partner in building something, you already can see that there are responsibilities, there are different roles that can be played. And you've got to also carry the words, you've got to bring in, your own contribution to the work. So for me, it's like thinking about it that way. And there are different things that I think about, bringing to the space. And there are things that I expect the other person to bring. And I think thinking about it this way is also helpful in the sense that when you also recognize that the other person is not doing the work that needs to be done to build, then you're able to sit back and be like, if we're building this together and this is what I'm doing to build it, and you're not lifting a finger, then there should be a problem, because it means that I'm building for us. I'm building this world that you promised to build with me on my own, and that's not cool, right? The point of partnership is we're building together. And I think the other thing that's dope about partnership is also starting to think about it from a place of like as you build, right, it's also about like resources. How there is this whole thing about like, I can come with you to you with like 50% today, I can carry you 90% tomorrow, but some days I'm just going to have 5% of me or 20% of me. I think that's kind of like a cool way of thinking about partnership, to say, some days I have like the best of me to give you. I'm like excited about the day. I'm excited to do things. Some days I'm like, I'm so tired, but I'm just going to show up with the little that I have. Some days I'm like, just carry me. I have nothing to bring to the space today. I think just recognizing that, the fluctuations that exist in life, it's very important, because it helps you to manage your expectations of somebody. But I think what's also exciting about that kind of approach is thinking about, a track record. If in the partnership you've been the person that in your fluctuations you do also bring in, like you're not the constant 5%, because I feel like if someone is always bringing 5%, that's like not gonna cut it, right? But if someone's brought in 90%, 50%, 40%, 100% at different points in life, you're not faulting them for bringing in 5% today, because it just happens. You would also bring in 5% sometimes. So I think for me, it's thinking about partnerships like that, and that's why I feel like it's so important to really sit down and ask yourself a lot of questions, and also to sit down with them. It's not just sitting down with yourself, it's sitting with them. And there are different ways of sitting. Like I have different ways of like, co-creating or planning for the co-creation process. And I remember like one of the things that I've actually sampled once that didn't really work out, unfortunately, was trying to get someone to sit down on a vision board style session, right? Because in my mind, I was actually having some challenges with the person. I was getting frustrated because I felt like I wasn't able to fit myself into their long term in a sensible way. Like if I'm going to be your partner, or if I'm your partner, and I'm not able to sit in some of the things or the person you're trying to be in the next 5 years, then somehow I'm like, okay, how does this look for me? Where do I sit in this whole thing? So one of the things I proposed to them was like, let's have a session. Let's talk about it. Let me know where you're trying to go, how you're trying to get there, what it's looking like. Give me the clear picture of what this life is looking like for you. In that way, I can get to see where I fit in, how I fit in, because I already know what I'm trying to do with myself, how I'm trying to build myself. It will change. God is the one that ultimately decides for us how life goes. But having a clear picture of this is what I want my journey to be, and I've communicated that with you, and you have a clarity of what you can be and how you can fit into my life, but I don't have clarity of how to be that in your own life. So when we have a sit down, then you're able to communicate that with me, and I'm able to engage with that and see like, oh, okay, I see where I fit in here. It also helps to make decisions, because I feel like for me, it's recognizing that if you're in a partnership with someone that's serious, you're starting to think about, I can't make a decision that affects my, my next 1 year, my next 2 years without thinking about that person. So if I have clarity of where your journey is going, what you're thinking about us as a collective, it's easy for me to make a decision that benefits the broader vision that we have, while not denying me and you, the opportunity to be whatever it is we're trying to be individually before we are a partnership. So I think for me, that was like super important, because I was like, some of the frustration that we're having has nothing to do with like maybe incompatibility. It's a conversation about just clarity and seeing how, things can work out. And I remember the person laughed. I was, when it happened, I was like, this is crazy, right? Because in my mind, I'm like, there's a problem that's been communicated. There's clearly like a problem, attention, right? And then I suggested this as a solution, and they laughed about it. To them, it was like, don't be, I remember the words they used, that like, Mantate, don't project plan my life. I was like, ooh, child. Yep, that's what happened. So like in their mind, they looked at this as like, this is project management. But now I'm like, for me, it's very important. Like planning is important. Planning has nothing to do with project management. You're not doing project management in the way that you're doing it at work, right? But you plan, even the Bible says that you need to write the vision down so that whoever reads it can run with it. So if you've not written the vision down, if you've not articulated the vision, I can't run with it, because I've not read it, I've not understood it, and I've not bought into it. So it's very important to plan. We can talk about different ways of planning, but planning is important. So when they laughed about it, I remember I asked them like, what's your version of planning? How would you prefer for things to go? They couldn't respond to that. So what then ended up happening was, the solution was not on the table. The problem was not solved, and that created a big like a bigger tension than it already was. Because also I was feeling some type of way like, yo, if you're gonna laugh at this kind of like, nah guys, this is crazy. I do think about vision, vision boards, setting your plan, and I feel like it's such an important thing. So for me, it's a thing that I would do. It's a thing that I would enjoy doing with a partner. So that for me was like super crazy, and it was like just this one example, of something that could be important to you, even if that person is like perfectly, like I said earlier, when you tick the boxes, they're like your type. But when you think about it, you're like, it's your type, but who are they when you can't sit down to plan their future, their present, and understand it with them, right? So I think it's very important to figure out, a way of understanding how planning can go, agreeing on a way to plan. And if you succeed, that's good, right? If you don't, like, if you can't plan together, then I really don't recommend you guys go together, because where are you going? Like, how are you gonna get there? Like, don't be going to places with people that don't know where they're going. I just think it's drama. Even on your own, in your own life, don't be going to places you don't know. Like, figure out where you're trying to be, how you're trying to be there. It becomes easier to get into things because you're like, this is in alignment with the person that I'm trying to be. So I think for me, that's very, very important, thinking about, that with a partner. So ask questions a lot. But I feel like I've done so much talking about things that people need to think about when they evaluate whether relationships are worth, pursuing. I've not done a good job of like getting you guys into the things that are really exciting to see and experience in relationships. And I know when I started, I did point to the fact that for me, some of the things I love in relationships is just like peace and security, mental security, emotional security, physical security. I want to be spiritually secure in my partnership. Like when I think about you, I want to feel joy. Like I don't want to be stressed. That's me. For me, I'm like my partner, my plus one should not bring me stress. By that I mean to say, you cannot be the source of negative energy in my life. You can't be the person that beats me down. You can't be the person that makes me cry. I don't want to be stressed by you. I want you to be my safe place when I'm stressed. I want you to be the place I want to go to when I'm crying. I want to be at home in a person. And part of that is recognizing that people are not perfect. People will err. And I think it's important because like I said earlier, that when you're in partnership, you're technically coming together as two different worlds to exist together, right? So there is a chance that the worlds may not always, converge. Sometimes there's like divergences. In the divergences that you experience, I think the point I'm trying to get at is whatever happens that creates a tension with us, between us, around us, I don't want the kind of negative energy that makes me feel like you're the worst thing to have happened to me. I want to see that, okay, this is stressful. I'm mad about this, but I still love you. I think for me, that's so important. And I've seen this, and I think it's such a powerful thing that even in anger, that this person loves you, and whatever it is that they've done, whatever it is that's happened between you, it has nothing to do with them not loving you. I think that's such a beautiful feeling. If you have a fight with somebody, you argue with your person, and you still feel like this is my person, that's the vibe. For me, that's it. That's the kind of don't stress me that I want. Like, I want to be like, this person is crazy, but like, this is my person, and my person is crazy, and I love that. So I think why it's important for me is because if I see you as a safe place, it's easy to come back to you. So if I'm stressed by you, if I'm, not in a good space because of you, it's easy for me to come back to you. I can breathe in, figure myself out, and come back. Or with you, I can work it out. I think the point here is if the person you're with is the person you're running away from when you're stressed by other things or by them, or you don't want to see them, like you feel like you're the worst thing that has happened to me, like all those guys, like like I don't want that. I just feel like for me, I'm not the person. I just love joy. I love being happy. And even with my life, I feel like I think about it from the way that I think about my own life. Like for me, I think of myself and I'm like, I get that you're not always gonna, make yourself proud. I get that you're not always gonna get things right. But I know for sure that I love myself. I know for sure that I love my journey. I love who I am, who I'm becoming. And that's why I'm like, my person has to feel like that. It has to feel like the person I'm excited about. So I think as long as someone doesn't stress me in that way, as long as that person feels safe for me, I'm like, I'm ready to build. Like, I am like where the bricks at, right? That's the person that I am. So I get into a partnership and I'm looking for that, emotional security. I want to be excited to see you. I want to be happy to tell you about things that happen, good things, bad things, and all those things. If I get that, I'm like, happy girl. Like, I always say this, even in friendships, in family relationships. For me, if I'm the best of me, I will bring the best of me to the relationship. So imagine a happy girlfriend. Happy girlfriend means that, you're going to be happy too, because it means I'll bring the best of me to you. And, it improves your world. It makes your life better. I mean, don't you want that for yourself? So technically, you've got to ensure an environment that allows the other person to be the best of themselves. So for me, I look for those kind of things: emotional security, physical security, mental security. And also, like, one of the other things that's very exciting when you choose the right partner, I think, is when you choose the right person, in the sense of, like I said, remember when I started and I said, choose the people that are in line with the prayer that you're having about partnership, with the vision you have for partnership. I think why it's important and why it's cool to kind of experience is the fact that when you sit down and you think about your choices, you're like, yeah, nah, I got choice. It's so nice to feel that way, to feel like, I'm glad I made this choice. Like, it's so nice to know that somebody is a choice you made, and it's a choice you're like, I'm glad I made this choice 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. or a lifetime ago. Like, it's so nice to know that the person you chose is the person that you're choosing today, and you want to keep choosing them. So that's why I'm like, you've got to make the right choice. Don't be getting into partnership for the wrong reasons, or for the very random of reasons, because you're gonna sit down one day and be like, what was I doing? And I feel like for me, as long as I'm in a space where I'm like, I like that I chose you, I enjoy that I chose you, and I'm happy that I chose you, then I know it's like it's a good partnership to be in. And the prayer is always that the other person feels the same way as well, because I think it would suck if you chose someone and you're excited about them, but they don't feel the same. Like, they chose you, they wish they hadn't. Or there are days when somebody's like, I hate that I chose you. Like, if anybody ever said that, you're like, nah, you should vamos. You should vamos, because what have you been, right? So it's very nice to know that you're chosen by somebody. They're choosing you every day. And I think when somebody chooses you, I just feel like they do the work. It's the same thing like you. I always think about partnership in the sense like of everybody doing something, like playing a role. So I always think that if somebody is my person and I chose them, I'm going to do the work to make this world work for me and my person, right? I will do what it takes to ensure that my person grows, my person is happy. And I know that by doing that, that person also is the best of themselves for me. But again, it all boils down to them choosing as well. In the same way that you're choosing to do the work, they also get to choose. I feel like somebody can be in a partnership with you, but if somebody doesn't love you, they will not do the work. There are certain things where you're like, you would do this if you loved your person. You would do this if you would do this for the person you love, and I'm not that person. And I feel like people need to be honest about that. It's not always the case that people are actually honest about that. But I feel like once we know, like, this is my partner, I'm willing to do what it takes to just be in this partnership and to see it grow, then you will do the work. So I think I love partnerships where I'm choosing that person. I also feel like my person is choosing me, because I think when somebody's choosing you, you get to see that, you get to feel that. It's like there's no question to the fact that I'm the person being chosen on a single day, like every day. And that's kind of cool to experience. And they get to have that assurance as well, that I'm like choosing you. I will choose you tomorrow. I also wanted to share something that has been very interesting for me to learn about partnerships and love, because it's something that, I never thought about extensively before, but now, like, it's such a big part of my journey, right? I have friends who have really been holding me accountable. Like, I have a friend who knows, like, if I'm in a partnership, right, they would know my partner, they would have a conversation with my partner, and they would actually call me, how are you doing? How's the person doing? If I'm frustrated, if I'm not happy, I let them know why I'm not happy. If I've decided, like, this is not the space I want to be at, they ask me, like, why do you feel that way? And then we just have this extensive conversation about it. I always call it therapy. And we'd have this conversation. And I think what's powerful with that is this is a person that's in a relationship that I like. So I think it's important to have friends like that. Have friends that are in partnerships that, remind you of the things that are important for you. I think it's important in the sense that there are people that will always anchor you. There are people that remind you of what's important. There are people that help you to see through, your blind spot. So I really enjoy conversations with this person. So we'd have conversations, and then when I'm done with the call, I'm like, okay, how am I feeling about this? Where am I at mentally about this? And it always just helps me. So I think accountability is a very important thing for you to have. And one of the things that my friend mentioned to me at some point was that when they were basically assessing my partner and actually identifying what could be the problem with whatever I was frustrated with, they were actually saying to me, I see that this person doesn't have around them, people that could help them be better at how they think about the relationship. What they're basically saying is, if the person doesn't have people that really call them out or hold them accountable or help them think through the things that are important in partnership, it means that they don't have the compass, to show them the way. And I thought that was really important and very profound, in the sense that we don't always think about the value of having friends that are in good relationships. If you're surrounded by people that are not in relationships, that are in shady relationships, that are terrible people in relationships, sometimes it doesn't help you to be a better person in a relationship. You could be a good person, you could be in a great relationship, but it's not always guaranteed that you can still be in a great partnership when you've got those kind of people around you. What that means is you're not throwing away your friends just because they're not the best people in relationships or they've not had great relationships. I think what's important is ensuring that you have people that you go to. They may not necessarily be your friends, but actually have people that you go to and be like, I have this dilemma, this is what I'm thinking about. Or you go to them with good things, like, I'm excited about this person and I want to pursue them, or I want to pursue life with them, but this is where I feel like, I'm not able to meet them somewhere, or that kind of vibe. So it's like having somebody that you talk to whose response you will trust, whose response can give you confidence that, this might actually work. So I think for me, that's been like a growing part of my relationship, and having friends that, speak into my partnership, and they help me, to anchor myself when I feel like I'm being shaky in a partnership. So I think for me, this is something important. I feel like this is something that I hope you can think about and have with you as you go through this month of love. If you're in a relationship and you don't already have friends that hold you accountable, get those friends. If you're in a partnership and you do have those friends, please take advantage of that opportunity. Use that opportunity. Make sure you speak to your friends. And if you're the friend in a good partnership as well, make sure you help your friends when they need. I mean, don't force it on them, but I think just create an environment and ensure that your friends understand the value, of getting that information from you, getting that experience from you. Because I don't think they lose anything by just learning from you. I mean, when people tell you their own experience, they're not forcing you to live like them or be like them, but they're sharing with you what has worked for them. And in the same way that we always take from people what works, you choose what you take from them and you leave whatever you don't want to take. I think for me, what's important is ensuring that I always have people that, act as my compass, and I'm able to say, oh, okay, I trust your response on this. I think I'll think about it this way. I'll reflect, and then, I'll move forward in the best way possible. So ensure that you have the right friendships. I also think the right friendships also remind you when, like, you're in the wrong places. Sometimes you're in a partnership and you're like, nah, this is not God. So your friends are the ones that help you to be like, yo, but this was not the prayer. So part of that is also transparency in friendships. I think when our friends know what we're looking for, when our friends know what's important to us, it's easy for us, to find the right people and think about getting into partnerships with people that are compatible with the prayer and the vision, because our friends remind us of what's important to us. So get the right friends. And I stand on this friendship thing. Get the right friends, get the right models of partnerships that you can learn from, that you can draw from. And like I said when I started, that a lot of this is just learning, to be honest. Like, everything that we are in this life, we've not done before. We're all doing this life for the first time. So there are things that we're going to do great. There are things that we're going to be terrible at. So at some point in your life, you might not be the best person for someone in a relationship. At some point, somebody might not be the best for you. So I think it's just recognizing when you're not the best of you, and being able to sit back and, reflect to say, does it mean I can't become the best of me in this particular partnership? If yes, then I need not be in it. But if I can be the better person in that partnership, if I can better myself, then it's a partnership that I'm willing to do the work for. Then you do that. I think whenever we don't take time to just reflect and think about who we are and where we are, I feel like there's no learning. The point of relationship is constant learning. And I say this as, like I said when I started, that this is not like me saying this is the rule, I just say it from a place of, personal experience and personal perspective as well. This is how I think, this is what I think. So whatever I said today, take it, live it, whatever the case might be. But I'm also very excited to always know what you guys think about, relationships. I feel like for me now, as a person, I'm a big advocate. Like, I love relationships. I think I love being in good partnerships. I love being in a partnership where someone is really just, inspiring me to be the best of it. Like, it's so nice to be happy, around somebody. It's so nice to be seeing your friends happy around your partner, because your partner is an extension of you. So they can be good to you, but if they're not good an environment for your friends, for your people, that's also not a cool space, because you're only just going to be happy when you're with them, but not when you're with your people. I think what's exciting is to have a partner that you can be happy with and around, whether you're with people or without other people. So for me, I won't lie, I'm like big on partnership, and I'm big on also always remembering to learn from partnerships, to just be like, what am I doing great? What am I not doing great? What is the other person not doing well for me? And being very expressive about what's good for you. Because I think if you know what you want and you've said what you want, and someone is able to bring that, that's really nice. If they're not able to do that, or if they're not doing the work to bring that to you, even though they know that's going to make you happy, then you're like, bro or girl, like, So I think it's very important for you to always be aware of what you're looking for, and then also be aware of what the other person is looking for, because also you're learning to bring that to them as well. So I think it's like thinking about the month of February as the month where we think about who we are in the partnerships that we're in. Right now in my relationship, being able to be like, where am I? Is this a relationship that I want? Is this the person that I want to be with my whole life? If it's not, what am I doing here? Maybe go to school, read a book, get a life, basically. I always think that if you're going to waste time with the wrong person, just use that time for other things, better things. Rather go to school, start a business, do something more meaningful with your life than wasting 3 years of your life with someone that you're not keeping your whole life. Because I feel like sometimes in relationships, if you know this is your partner, it's your partner. If you know this is not, you already know. Some people just stay there for I don't know, whatever reasons. But I think if you've got time and you're planning to waste it, or you've been wasting it on somebody, or a partnership that's clearly not working for you, live it, get a life, get a book, go to school. And also don't waste somebody's time, because it's not just about the other person wasting your time. It's also about you. Don't waste people's time. Don't disrespect people by not being the best of you to them. If you're not in it to win it, don't be in it. Don't waste people's time. Let them go so that they can experience people that are good for them, people that, will fit into their growth. So I feel like I've said a lot of things today. I hope it was a balanced conversation, because I was not here to tell you guys love is this thing where you should forget to think. You'll be thinking, please use your brains. Your heart is yes, but your brains must be there as well. Use your brains, lead with your heart, but ensure that your brains are there. They're not outside the bag. It's bring them both. It's very, very important. And so if I try to summarize some of the important things that I say today, the most important thing was asking yourself the question, who am I in this partnership? Am I the version of me that I'm excited to be, that I want to be? Is this the version of me that I'm trying to build myself into? If you are, that's a great partnership to be in. Work on ensuring that you're the same person to the other person, and that you're able to, to build them, because when you're building each other, you build something very beautiful. So that's the most important question. And then the other question that you ask yourself is this person a safe space for me? Am I emotionally safe with this person? Am I mentally safe with this person? Am I excited to think about this person? Do I think about this person when I'm sad, when I'm happy, when I'm excited about life? Is this the person that I'm God, keep this one for me, If that's your person, you'll just keep praying for them, thanking God for them, just keep doing the work that needs to be done, because they're probably also doing the work. Hopefully they are doing the work. And then the other question that you need to ask yourself is, do I have the friends that can be compasses in my relationship life, friends that remind me of what's important, that help me to see my blind spots, the friends that allow me to to get models of what works and what doesn't, what works and what doesn't work, right? So yeah, thank you guys for being a part of this podcast episode. I hope it was a useful conversation for you. I hope it helps you think about the relationship you're in, the relationship that you might get into, but it also reflects on the relationships that you've been on, and thinking about, what have I learned from them? What can I take from them? What is it that I'm definitely not taking from them? Both in terms of this is not what I'm going to tolerate from somebody, but also this is not what I'm not going to tolerate from me as well, because you're also reflecting on, was I the best person to this partnership? Did I do what needed to be done? But also, did I ensure that I don't lose myself to keep a particular partnership? So I hope this has been a great conversation. And remember, guys, the best way to keep, updated on what I post is to subscribe to my channel. I have my channel on YouTube. It's called The Mantate Show, or you can just search for Mantate Mloja on YouTube. You will find it. On Instagram, I have a dedicated podcast page. It's called The Mantate Show. If you follow it, I'm always posting updates there. So when you subscribe, what happens is whenever I post something new, you will get a notification. That way you don't miss my episodes. But also, I'm always excited to know what you guys think about the topics that I talk about. So please use the comment section to let me know what you're thinking, or how you think about relationships and love. And yeah, I'm very excited. I feel like, February is so nice. It's that month where everything feels so perfect, and I think it can be in our heads. And then in real life, it can always be work that we get to do every day. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. And also, one of the other things I wanted to do is, wanted to tell you guys is, I know Valentine gets, to become this big pressure, but I feel like, one of the things that I've seen over the years, the Valentine thingy, where girls come together and do like a whole celebration thing, which kind of like looks like this episode, but in real life, where you talk about things, you remind each other of, you know, the love that exists in your world, in your heart, in your friendships, in your in your circles. So I feel like you should do things like that. And I don't think Valentine is just for people that are not in relationships. I think February as a month of love has reminded us of the spaces we need to create and the spaces that we need to embrace, where love is a conversation. So you can do that with your friends. You can do that, you know, with the friends that are not necessarily girls. It can be dudes doing it. You guys can call it whatever. But my point is, do something that, you know, allows you to remember what love means, because I think love is a beautiful thing. And that, guys, is the end of this week's episode of the Mantate Show. I hope that you will enjoy this episode, share it with the people that, you know, matter to you, but also subscribe. And also, I hope that you come back next week. We'll talk about something very exciting. Enjoy the month of love. I hope in all of this thinking and reflecting on love, I just hope the most important love you remember is the love that you have for yourself, because it sets the tone for every other love that you experience. So yeah, enjoy the month of February. Enjoy, you know, the season of love for yourself, and give it generously to other people. So yeah, bye.